Cool.
Hey, Heroic Fatherhood. This is Charlie King, and we're back. We're back. Like, we did an interview not an hour before, and we're back again now doing it again. This is the last interview in the series of Dad's Making a Difference before we go away to Dad 2.0.
I feel special.
Well, you should. And screen left is my good friend, Matt York of That Dad Matt, who's coming back after a technology fail, a wireless internet fail. It interrupted our talk. And we said, you know what? That was so powerful. And half the interview disappeared that we should have Matt back. And lo and behold, ladies and gentlemen, Matt is back.
Hello, everyone.
And please tell me who's in the room with you, my friend.
So the toddlers just ran out of the room, but that means nothing for more than 30 seconds. So let's see. The littlest, Noah, who is 9 months, was on mama's back, headed down the hallway, chasing my almost 3-year-old next week, Miles, who was going to join my 5-year-old Baylor, who's watching Thumbelina in her room.
Well, Thumbelina.
Yeah, we've had a big day. My oldest had school this morning. Then we did park, and then we did pizza, and then we did more playing at home because brother got his birthday present early. We got one of those like massive like net swings. Do you know what I'm talking about? They have like a hard edge, and they're like a woven material across the center. Cool. So they can hold like a 650 pounds. I don't know. I feel safe sitting on it, and the kids pile on with me. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
You just need to find a tree branch that's sturdy enough.
Well, we're lucky. We live in a really well-established neighborhood with really big trees that I watch the branch as I swing, and I'm like, okay, it's not coming down. So
right.
So far, so good.
Oh, that's so great. Now, last time we chatted with you, you were in Texas and you were at a show. You were representing a brand. We were talking about branding and everything else. Where do you find yourself today, sir?
I am in Texas in my house. In my house. I'm at home after 2 weeks of trade show work. A lot of my sponsors, I work for them when they do trade shows and stuff. So I'm home prepping for Dad 2.0, just like you. I'm driving because I'm so close. So my buddy, Tony of Crunchy Dad Mom, he's flying in tomorrow. And then on Thursday morning, early, we're going to get on the road to drive to New Orleans.
Oh my gosh. How long's the drive for you?
Like 7 hours-ish.
Oh.
So yeah, it's not that bad at all. Like when we looked at the cost of driving and parking versus flying, it was stupid not to drive.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And was your trip a success?
My trip, yeah, it's been a great, couple of weeks kickoff to the year. And, I love getting out and meeting a lot of the small retailers that work with parents one-on-one, hands-on. I consider myself somewhat of an educational influencer. So it's fun to talk with the brand or with the store owners and see, talk to them about how they're selling the product, how they're teaching parents, what education they're doing in their stores. Because, when first time parents go out, that's their first source of information. That mom or dad that they meet in a store when they're buying baby products, like, is one of their first, kind of fortes into the baby gear world.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. Now, so for those who didn't get a chance to see the first interview, Matt is of That Dad Matt. Yep. Matt is a social media influencer. He's an educational influencer. He partners with brands a ton. Yep. And you and your beautiful wife and your family have jumped like whole waist deep in this. And, start by telling us what had you get into it.
So, I worked a corporate job, much like most of America. And I worked, somewhere between 60 and 90 hours a week. And I just found myself not spending enough time with my kids. And so My wife actually worked for a small natural parenting retailer. I would teach classes there on the weekends. That slowly became more a part of our lives. And through that, we started meeting brands and working with brands. And, we had a friend who was like, hey, we've got this big trade show. Can you come work it with me? And I was like, yeah, sure. So we flew out to Vegas, did this trade show. And we always say the rest was history. We really are not sure how the rest of it happened. So, it was one of those things where people wanted me to talk about their products, but all I had was a personal Facebook and a personal Instagram account. And so luckily, just through networks of friends, asking questions, we started some public accounts. I got asked to speak at a conference a few months later. That turned into a contract to speak all year. Then other conferences started asking me to speak, and all of that just started rolling into one. I already had a few of my certifications. I'd already been a baby wearing educator. I was already a car seat safety technician. So the education piece of it was just natural. It was rolling the product piece in it. And we've changed the format over the last few years. We used to do kind of theme education, and then it was kind of a free-for-all for a little while. And then we kind of, went back to a different sort of theme format. But it's been fun. I mean, we have what most people call, and I proudly tout, the most engaged group of parents on Facebook. Our core following membership group crowd of parents, they are amazingly loyal, amazingly engaged. They themselves each come with their own set of skills and share within our community, help lift each other up. I used to kind of, when people asked what I did, I would say, well, I run a positive parenting community, because that's what it is. I mean, we are a group that we can commiserate with each other, but we all keep it so positive, so uplifting. There's enough hate and negativity in the world. We've talked about this on our very first live. Yep. But, when it comes to what we do on a daily basis, we try to keep it positive. If there's a brand, we don't like their product, we just don't talk about it. We say, hey, that's great. We've never tried it, but we prefer this. We try to keep those things going. And it's been an awesome ride that we're still learning and growing through.
Oh, that's so great. That's so great. And, that it seems like this natural progression that is falling forward. Is there somebody that you modeled yourself after, or is this like a DIY from the ground up?
I mean, obviously, I think we take in what other around us do, but I feel like everything we do is fairly unique to us. No, there's no one specific, really. I mean, I don't know many people out there doing what we do that aren't with the limited resources we have. That's the best way to put it. I think there's large groups, but I don't think anyone's doing it as intimately as we're doing it. I don't think anyone's doing it with the level of engagement we're doing it. And I don't think anyone's doing it this is going to sound harsh, but for the right reasons. I feel like there's...
say a little bit more about that.
I mean, I just think a lot of, I think I talked about this yesterday in my Instagram stories, and it's so funny. Fellow influencers that are in my close network of people that I share stuff with and share their work. I think a lot has been brought to light about people putting on the picture perfect parenting picture on social media these days. Look what a great dad I am. Look how beautiful I am as a postpartum mom. Look at how beautiful I laid out my child's clothing, and look, all of that. It's fun to go and look at those things and see those things, but there's an lack of authenticity. Sorry, I just couldn't come up with the word there. Lack of authenticity to it. Right. That I have said from the beginning we would never bring. We have professional photographs taken all the time of us. I work with an amazing photographer locally. She shoots our family on, probably a monthly basis. But when we post those pictures, we talk about the realness behind them. She actually always gripes at me because I swear half the photos I share are actually the outtakes from the photo shoot. They aren't even the actual pictures, because we want to make sure we're not painting an unrealistic picture for first-time parents. I don't want a parent to think having a toddler is perfect and beautiful and clean, because it's not. And that's not being negative.
There is poop.
There is poop. There is snot. There is messes made. You know, we have, oh my gosh, like, there's a major influencer out of the UK. I don't know his first name, but it's the Dad Lab. He does all of these amazing like art projects and learning and sensory things with his kids. And I'm like, man, I would never do a single one of those things with my kids, because it would end in utter disaster. Right. And so, like, you know, I just want to make sure we're showing what's really happening to us. If I'm having a bad day, I tell our following, I'm having a bad day. Like, I know I said I'd get this done today, but today is a dark day in the York house. Like, the kids are a mess. I'm a mess. You know, I've also really I don't want to say prided myself. I have, out of my comfort zone, put myself out there, because I don't feel like we should hide it. I'm emotional. I've struggled with postpartum depression, which most men don't talk about. I struggle with depression and anxiety in general, which I feel like we're not talking about. I feel like we're not talking about those sides of parenting, and we just send parents deeper into that by not talking about it. And I think, you know, there is more and more conversation about postpartum with women, but I feel like there's not enough conversation about postpartum with men. I also feel there's not enough conversation about from the right people. And I know that sounds wrong to say, but I feel like there's people with influence out there that could be expanding on the conversation and aren't, you know?
Yeah. I think you've got their eyes on the prize, right? Like and it's a challenge. It's a challenge to be willing to get super transparent. Like, you know, and it can seem super counterintuitive. Like, I don't want to bring the room down. Nobody wants to hear my story. Nobody wants to hear me whining or struggling or suffering. You know, and I know that that's something that I've certainly been challenged with in sort of sharing what's so for me. And yet when I do, you know, half the time people go, it's going to be okay, man. You're going to make it through, which sometimes helps.
Yeah. Or like, no, I don't want to steal the hatchet, but literally people are like, hey, guess what? Me too. Like this, I'm right there with you. Like, I think we underestimate what other parents are going through. And I think it's so ingrained in us from generations before us to live that 1950s picture perfect family life. I think that's so deeply ingrained in us that even though we are progressive and liberal or whatever, and we are like, yes, like we let that flag fly, inside of us, we're still fighting that feeling of, oh, we can't let people know that. Oh, we should, you know, nobody wants to hear that from me. Nobody wants to see that part of my life. Like, people do, because the more we hide it, the less we talk about it, the more that other parent is going, oh, I can't talk about it. But when we talk about it, it empowers them to talk about it, and then we've created a conversation. Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely.
You know, I think...
And when we don't have that conversation, it pushes us further back away from connecting with other people.
Absolutely.
And especially for, you know, like I can speak from a dad's perspective and a man's perspective. There's enough isolation for men as it is. Like, you know, men see each other as competition to other men. I think that's just the way we're, like, my opinion, that's the way we're hardwired. And so we see each other as competition. So we're less likely to go, you know, hey, I'd like to connect with you. No. And then if we're feeling nervous about sharing transparencies, we're constantly either putting up that everything's fine over here. That was my family. Nothing to see over here. Just keep looking at.
We're good.
Yeah, we're all good. It's all good. You know, or, you know, don't get near me because I'm a threat. right? Like, don't get near me because I'm a threat, which may have nothing to do with, which is just as likely a call for help as it is anything else.
Absolutely. I think I hear it all the time when I share those parts of me, the feedback I get, the direct messages I get obviously get a ton from moms. I think it's a misconception that as dad bloggers, we are trying to create followers of other fathers. But I think we can all openly admit that half of our following is women. I think for everyone, more than half is women. It's women trying to share with their husbands to get them on board, in tune with, believing for, whatever. You insert set of adverbs and adjectives, like whatever it is. But I inevitably always get a dad that's like, or another man that's, or non-gestational caregiver that's like, oh man, I feel that too, or I agree with you, and I'm like, you should share that. And they're like, oh no, I couldn't do that. Even like when I've been at, other conferences like Dad 2.0 or even Dad 2.0 last year, I would hear so many people say like, oh man, it's so great what you're doing. I can never do that. And I'm like, but why? Why couldn't you just say, I suffered from PPD, or I loved that my wife had a home birth, or man, I thought my wife's C-section was really effed up, or I enjoy, I don't know what it is, fill in the blank. The list could go on forever. It's very interesting. And I feel like that's my new mission, is starting that conversation, because I think a lot of times as parents, like, we're constantly left with the feeling that we need to do more, and that no matter what we're doing, we're not doing enough. But I think what that feeling, for me personally, and from my conversations with other people, what I think that feeling is from generational pass down. We don't feel we're doing it right. Not enough, but right. And I want to start the conversation this year. That's like, I decided yesterday, this is my 2018 mission. Like, I want to start the conversation of that feeling that none of us talk about. I want to talk about it. Whatever it is inside of each of us, that feeling of not being enough, not doing enough, not saying enough, not seeing enough, whatever it is, I want to talk about that with people, and I want people to talk about it, because I sit and I think I looked on Facebook. I'm in almost 1,000 chat groups. With Facebook's new algorithm, I now see them more than ever, and I don't have to go in them and do my little visual research. It's so interesting to see and I'm going to stumble over this a little bit, but the kind of like microaggressions parents use against themselves, the way they put themselves down, like they're automatically assuming we're judging them before anyone even says anything because of preconceived notions. Right. And I want to wish that away.
Yeah. It's like, well, I super want to share this, but I wish it could have been better.
Right.
Like that there's something wrong. There's the not enoughness, right? Not good enough, not thin enough, not fast enough, not strong enough, not, mother enough, not father enough, not making enough money, not spending enough time with the kids,
not taking enough pictures, not folding enough laundry, not washing enough dishes, not vacuuming the floors enough. I think we're so confused on the fact that none of that is what our kids are going to remember. They're going to remember all the yes moments. They're going to remember an extra 15 minutes of snuggles on the couch before bed, an extra book. They're going to remember that movie on a school night. They're going to remember dessert for dinner just because it sounded fun that day. They're going to remember crawling in our bed at 3 a.m. They're going to remember everyone jumping in the car and going camping for the night just because, or whatever it is. That's what they're going to remember. And I think if we spend so much time worrying about what other people see of our parenting, that's what our kids are going to remember. And that's not what we want them remembering.
No, we don't want it. We don't want them remembering that we're spent our entire time trying to keep up with the Joneses.
Yeah. Parenting for other people.
Well, yeah. And remember, the Joneses just got a lot bigger too, because there were no Joneses outside of your zip code.
Right.
10, 15 years ago. Now the Joneses are everywhere.
Yeah. Now the Joneses are, every fifth social media account with 50 to 100,000 followers.
Yeah.
They're the family living on a farm in rural Michigan with their picture perfect life. They're the family in their Airstream traveling across the country. They're the family in New York City who takes a walk in the park every single day with their 5 kids. They're, the family living in,
And they're still pushing, by the way, they're still pushing a pram.
Right. They're still pushing a pram because, it's New York City. Or they're the family, that's testing a new car on social media every week. Or, even us, like I hear people all the time, oh, you're so lucky with all the product you have. Like, please don't ever hold yourself to our standard. Like, we would not have half the gear we had if it wasn't sent to us for free. I would never buy half of it. We could absolutely never even afford most of it.
Right.
Like, at all. I can tell you, I'm testing a $500 stroller car seat right now. I love it. I think it's one of the greatest parenting innovations that's happened in the last few years. I would never be able to afford that for my family. Ever.
Right.
And so I don't expect anyone to get it if they can't afford it. And I think it's, I don't think I've ever heard it put so well. The Joneses just got so much bigger.
It's like, and then every time you turn around, it's somebody who's got and just when somebody is, and it's not that people are going to end up showing you the dark side or it's not working out well side. They just withdraw, right?
Uh-huh.
They withdraw from what we see. And what algorithms do is they bring in the next Joneses for you to look at and be like, oh, wow, look what this LA couple's doing. Or, look at this family that lives part-time in Malaysia and are digital nomads and part-time in London and then, part-time in Bangkok.
Right. It's like the Joneses literally went global.
Yeah, exactly.
The Joneses went global. Man.
And so hashtag the Joneses live in my zip code, right? We were having this conversation, my wife and I, just this morning about her having a conversation with a friend. And the friend was sharing some huge win about their child. And my wife said, it was so knee jerk that I wanted to compare myself. Like I suddenly either had to go down the rabbit hole of touting something my child did. And it's not about my wife or wives or whatever, right? It totally shows up for me too. It's like, well, let me tell you the great shit that my children are doing, or beat myself up about why are their children, getting those grades or got invited to those activities or have that group of friends or whatever the thing is.
Oh, and I think we even do it when we commiserate too. Like the coin has both sides. Oh man, I can't stand when my kid does that too. I've got it just as bad as you do. I feel like we do it on both sides of the coin. And I don't know that it's always something we need to undo. I think it's something we need to learn to be okay with in ourselves and in our head. Hey, that's great that your kid had that. La-di-da. It's hard. It's hard.
Yeah, exactly. And and I think it's tough too that when we don't let people just own the struggle or own the win wherever they're at, we're taking it away from them.
Yes.
We're taking it away from them and we're somehow lessening their share, which can be super disempowering for other people, among other things, when what they just need to be is heard. Right.
I agree.
I don't know where I was going with that, but that was just what showed up in my brain.
I know you. I mean, we completed. I think we jumped 3 conversations and completed this one. You're right. It's so true. It's so true. Man, It's hard. This parenting gig. Have kids, they said. It'll be fun, they said. Last night, we had to go to bed at 8:15 because my 3-year-old decided to take a 5-hour nap yesterday afternoon. Therefore, he did not want to go to bed with his sister, which she wasn't having, even though she's the one that had school this morning. So to get them all to go to bed, we all had to go to bed and turn off all the lights and TVs and everything in the entire house to get sleep to happen.
Yeah, right. Like, talk about, like, that was probably not in your plan. That was not in your nighttime plan.
No, I missed like half the work I needed to get done. I didn't get to watch my TV show with my wife that I planned on. Also, wasn't yesterday National Chocolate Cake Day? I was totally going to sneak out and go to the store.
I thought yesterday was National Waffle Day or something like that.
I can't keep up. I know I saw hashtag National Chocolate Cake Day and I wanted chocolate cake yesterday.
And you're like, dagnabbit, we're having cake.
I know. And in Texas, we have this amazing stuff called Texas sheet cake, which is like a thin layer of like super moist chocolate cake and then like a thick layer of almost fudge-like frosting with pecans in it. And when you cut it into squares, it's almost like a brownie, but it's a little too soft to be a brownie and still very kind of cakey. And that's what I wanted.
Matt York, you're bringing one of those to Dad 2.0, right?
I can stop and get one tomorrow. Yeah, that could happen. I could make that happen. Someone had asked me to bring a beer that I couldn't get my hands on. Maybe Texas sheet cake can be my replacement.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so great. Yeah, you know, it's this level of inquiry, this level of exploration about our experience that starts the conversation about, like, you know, the concept called perfect, whole, and complete.
Okay.
Like, the work I do assumes from the get-go that all people are perfect, whole, and complete just the way they are.
Right.
Some of them have had some really bad things. Some people have had some really bad things happen to them.
Okay.
Some people have made some really tough choices and they wouldn't make them again. But what if we started with the assumption that people are perfect, whole, and complete just the way they are? And that there's nothing you have to fix and there's nothing wrong with you.
Right.
And the moment we can, like, start debunking the wrongness, because I think that there's this default that we're constantly trying to fix and then fix and then fix and then fix. And whatever we fix just leaves space for the next thing that's going to show up that we need to fix. And it becomes this never ending cycle of
not enough.
Not enough.
Yeah. Boy, I think societally, we live the never-ending cycle of not enough. Our house isn't big enough. Our cars aren't nice enough. Our bank account isn't full enough. My body isn't thin enough or thick enough, or my hair isn't long enough, or I don't have enough hair, or, I'm not smart enough. My kids aren't smart enough. My, whatever. The enough, I think, yeah, my wife just gave me a thumbs up.
Well, we have approval then.
Yeah, I mean, my wife is the queen of it needs to just be enough. Like, enough is enough.
Right.
But I think it's a struggle. Like, I think people sometimes see enough as mediocrity. I think that's kind of been ingrained in us. And I think it's interesting to look at how each of us grew up regionally, geographically, what era our parents came from versus, because, whereas, my dad's a baby boomer, my mom's not. Like, it's interesting the different perspectives I got from each of them. And, my mom is definitely of that generation of the fill your house. More things equals more. Whereas my dad is very much, I think, coming from Depression era parents, being a baby boomer, be happy with what you got, like, kind of build what you can, make it work, that type of thing. And I think it's interesting to talk to friends because, I have friends whose parents are even younger than my parents because my parents were slightly older when they had me. And hearing the differences of the ways they were brought up. And it's interesting. I like the word ingrained, what's been ingrained in us by the generations before us. It's interesting to see how that trickles into our parenting and into our social skills and things like that.
Well, I think this piece around growing yourself and enoughness is kind of an interesting distinction because, it's certainly people like, well, if I'm good enough just the way I am, I don't have to do anything. Well, true, you don't, but you may choose to, right?
Yeah.
Like there may be places like maybe you want to get thinner, get thicker, like learn something new, try something different, change a job, whatever. It's not that, but it isn't as a matter of a knee-jerk reaction. It's not a knee-jerk reaction to because there's something wrong with me. It's because you say, no, this is in service of my career or in service of me, being more with my kids or in service of my health and well-being, or it makes me feel good to be this way. So I'm going to do that.
Are you doing it for you? Or are you doing it for the right reasons? Are you doing it because you think someone else thinks you should, or are you doing it because you know that thing, that task, that item will make you feel more fulfilled, more fulfilled. Yeah. So that right.
I think we're going to have to continue this conversation in New Orleans because this is just a juicy one.
Yeah. Are we over on our time a little bit?
Well, we're over on our time a little bit. I've got some few minutes like what's so you're driving, you're on your way.
Yes.
What are you most excited about going to Dad 2.0?
It's funny. My wife asked me about this. Seeing my friends that on social media, the other dads that I interact with on a regular basis and things like that I don't get to see all the time. I locally don't have a ton of dad friends. So it's nice, Eli Littman of City Dads Group LA is one of my really good friends that I made last year at Dad 2.0. We've connected several times throughout the year. Really excited to hang with him. My buddy Tony, who's flying in, it's going to be his first Dad 2. It's going to be great to get to go to New Orleans and hang with him. I think the camaraderie that comes with it. I also, I really love talking with the sponsors and meeting the brands. Brands are my strong suit. And so I really enjoy that piece of it. I think there's an interesting, that's the word I'm going to use for it. Interesting dynamic of sponsorship this year.
How so?
That I think could bring some interesting conversations. Ooh. I have some personal feelings and beliefs that I think it's an interesting concept to have a company like GlaxoSmithKline sponsoring this year. I think that's an interesting, I'm using the word interesting because I really can't come up with a better word. Move with the state of the parenting community.
Yeah. Well, it's to the same extent.
That's the best I can do.
There's nothing to be sorry about. Like, I totally get it. And, to the same extent, there's no one, there's no one, like, everybody believes this one thing.
Oh, no. And actually, what's funny is I'm actually really neutral on that subject. Personally, I think it's interesting to bring a sponsor that hits such a hot button in the parenting community. I think that's a better way to put it. To me, it is the most hot button parenting topic. It is. I don't think people, no offense, who haven't had kids in the last 10 years get that.
Right.
But for dad bloggers that are blogging and writing and influencing to people who are currently expecting and newly have children, it is the hot button topic. Yes. There is no more hot button topic than that.
Yes.
And I just think it's interesting.
Yeah.
Apparently, Mom 2 did it and went off without a hitch. So I think that's interesting as well. I didn't even know that. I think probably because the moms that I follow were there abstained from that hashtag. But yeah. So other than that, I'm really excited to see what Kia's bringing to the table. They're always a great sponsor. Fun to have Hanes there instead of Russell this year, which is really cool. Yeah. Always love getting some new undies. Smarty Pants Vitamins is a really cool sponsor. Plum is one that, a lot of the groups work with, especially City Dads groups. Are really fun to have them there. And see, meet some of the other new ones that we haven't seen before. That's it.
Well, it'll be great. And there's going to be a lot more coming from Matt York of That Dad Matt.
Yes.
And we'll be doing some live videos. And Matt and I committed the last video. I'm committing him again. I'm not even going to ask his permission that we're going to get up and we're going to talk live. We're going to talk about fatherhood. I think we should continue this conversation about personal self-awareness and and especially for men and the state of fatherhood. I think that these are all juicy conversations.
I think that's what we should call Doug's speech, the state of fatherhood, kind of like the State of the Union, just the state of fatherhood. His closing speech, that's what it should be called on the program.
There you go. There you go. Hey, Matt York, thank you so much for being the second time, being a part of the Dads Making a Difference series here on Heroic Fatherhood.
Thank you.
You're going to see more in this space over the next week. Keep tuned. Keep your eyeballs on it. And thank you as always, Matt. And I look forward to seeing you in about, 24 to 30 hours.
Right. All right. See you later, buddy.
All right, buddy. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, all.